Hello there, and welcome into another episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. Thank you so much for clicking on the show. I am your host, Don Kleppen. And if it's your first time here, welcome in. This is a show where we're taking a journalistic look at all things cannabis, and I like to talk with experts in the field, whoever they may be, if they're entrepreneurs who've created products or started a business with some new cannabis-related goods or services that we all get to try in legal states, or if they're a professor or a doctor who's researching the questions that we have still that remain about cannabis, or some government leaders, elected or appointed officials who are in charge of making cannabis policies in the states that have legalized it that are likely to be foundational to legal cannabis moving forward in the U.S. and possibly around the world. I am incredibly excited and very happy right now because it is February, listener, which means that my dry January is over, and I'll tell you a little about my final thoughts on the month and celebrate being finished with it properly here with you. I've got some products right here next to me that I'm looking forward to trying. I also have some news stories and events to tell you about related to cannabis, and of course my expert interview today. I am speaking with the COO of a dispensary company, a cannabis company who's operational in Arizona, Michigan, and Missouri right now, and they're expanding to Illinois along with Nevada and Massachusetts. And they're doing some really, really amazing things, including offering a discount to veterans every single day, which I think is crucially important. We get into that and a lot more during my interview later on in this episode. If you haven't already, go ahead and leave a rating or review for the show. However you're listening to this, if this is on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you get your podcasts on, there's usually an opportunity to rate or review a show. And if you could leave one for me and this Cannabis Man podcast, I'd really appreciate it. It helps out a lot because there's tons of podcasts out there, and ratings and reviews from listeners like you help tell other people which podcasts are worth their time. And the more ratings and reviews a show has, it stands out from the rest of the podcasts out there. So that is greatly appreciated. And of course, you can become a subscriber to the Cannabis Man podcast. If you scroll down to the support the show link in the description notes, you click on that, it takes you to a Buzzsprout page, and you can become a subscriber. If you do, you'll get an email thanking you from me, and you'll get a shout out in the next episode. I really do appreciate the support. I can't thank you enough for listening and for supporting the Cannabis Man podcast. You can always follow the show at C-Man Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or head to the Cannabis Man Podcast Facebook page. I'm always posting there. And you can email me at host@cannabismanpodcast.com. Any topics you want to see me explore, any guests, ideas, or products that you think are worth my attention, go ahead and send them into the email, and I will certainly take your thoughts into account. So with that said, I've got an interview to get to you. I've got lots of news and events to tell you about, and of course, getting into sampling some of these products after a miserable 31 days without using cannabis and some of those others during dry January. So without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Cannabis Man podcast.
This is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Cannabis broadcast.
It is so good to be in February, listener. I don't know if you've heard any of the shows from this last month. If you haven't, I did my own modified version of Dry January. I've been telling people I did the full month, 31 days, with no alcohol, no cannabis, no added sugars, no caffeine, and no meat. And it was a brutally long month, I'll tell you. I've mentioned on the show a lot of things I experienced. I had trouble getting to sleep. I had a lot of trouble, fittingly perhaps, on January 31st, Wednesday night, getting to sleep, the final night of the month. I really had a hard time getting to sleep. Might have been my excitement looking forward to just being through the month, getting into the 1st of February and all that. So that final night, it was a fitful night of sleep, not very restful. My dreams were vivid when I did get down. I was tossing and turning the whole night. And there were several nights like that throughout the month of January. It was not that pleasant. But I'll tell you, I really came to enjoy how I felt day to day. My body, my mind, it all felt really good. And, one of the main reasons I decided to go through it is that I wanted to take a long tolerance break and reset my cannabis tolerance. And I can tell you that it has been reset. I worked yesterday, my normal shift, and I didn't imbibe anything on the 1st. I'm recording this right now, Friday, February 2nd, and this episode's going to come out tomorrow on the 3rd. But my point being is that I didn't really imbibe much yesterday during the day. I let the 1st of February pass kind of like a normal day, and then my wife had planned a really great dinner for both of us. She cooked up a beautiful steak, she cooked up some lobster tail, and she melted some butter, some asparagus, just to keep some greens in there as well. I had a bottle of whiskey that I was gifted for the holidays, some Distiller's Select Woodford Reserve. So I'd been staring at that bottle throughout the month of January. So as soon as I got home from work last night, I poured a glass of that whiskey. Gretchen, my wife, plated up the dinner and set the table, and it was just a phenomenal feast. I got to tell you, that steak, I always love a good steak. I will enjoy it forever, but that one, after a month of no meat, boy, I was really like a kid in a candy store. I mean, it was like the first steak I ever had. I mean, it was just wonderful. And she also, without the added sugars, she also went out and got some sweets at this local shop by us in Edgewater here, Lickety Split. I have no affiliation with them, listener, but if you're in the Chicago area and you have the opportunity, you have got to check out Lickety Split. It's like this specialty candy store. Totally gives me vibes of Willy Wonka. They have all this old-timey candy on display you'd never see anywhere else. They've got a whole wall of sodas with flavors you just wouldn't believe. They've got a display case of all these handmade sweets. And every day they've got custard, soft-serve stuff. They have ice cream, but they have the concrete as well. You can kind of make your own with different toppings and all of that. It's just a wonderful place, and Gretchen got like a container of sweets for us to have for dessert. And I didn't have much to smoke yesterday. I had cleared my supply during dry January, at least I thought I had. But of course, like any stoner, I started looking through my grinder, looking through my drawer last night after dinner and after 2 glasses of whiskey. And I was able to find some ground up weed that I hadn't used. I found some keef in the bottom of one of the grinders. I packed up a little bowl for myself, and I just took 2 or 3 hits, and I gotta tell you, listener, my tolerance has been effectively reset. It was a very difficult month. It was a very difficult dry January, but I'll tell you what, I've talked about this on the show before. I'm a daily smoker. When I am using cannabis like I typically do, I will smoke throughout the day. And so it gets to a point, as I'm sure you're familiar with, your tolerance gets real high. And so you might need several bowls, several joints, several concentrates or dabs, whatever it is, edibles, however you like to consume. You might need more than one, maybe several throughout your day to kind of get to the point that you want to get to. And I got to tell you, I was sitting there last night after dinner and dessert, and after like 2 hits on this bowl of a little bit of weed and keef, and I was just flying almost to the point of paranoia and panic. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like I was so high in a way that I hadn't been in I don't know how long. Last time I did a tolerance break, which was last year before my wedding in early May, I did a 3-week tolerance break leading up to my bachelor party, and then ended up going to the Rise in Mundelein to hang out as the first night of the bachelor party to kind of try some different products and stuff that I don't normally get to use. I gotta tell you, after that 3-week tolerance break, I noticed a little bit of a difference, but not that much. Like, for instance, I smoked a few joints that night. We used kind of this little gravity bong thing. I was very stoned at the end of the night, but I was still able to somewhat function. I mean, thankfully, I certainly wasn't driving or anything, but, we all took Ubers out to this place, and I remember getting home that night and, getting a good night of sleep and everything, but I wasn't altered to a significant degree. Last night, after this 31-day tolerance break, I took 2 hits on this and it felt like my first time smoking again. That is not an exaggeration. I literally was sitting on the couch, silent, barely paying attention to what we were watching, totally in my own head, and I was just significantly stoned. And I can't tell you how thrilled I was. As much as I was saying I was panicking, I wasn't really panicking. I was just kind of in that sort of significantly stoned place where you are and your mind is running all over the place. That's where I was. And I gotta say, I was just so thrilled to be back there, was really happy that I made it through the month. It was difficult. It was not easy. It was easier than the first time I did it 4 years ago. But I gotta tell you, for my money, I think this type of tolerance break, this sort of, hey, every now and again, maybe twice a year, where I take a couple of weeks off and sort of do a little reset. For my money, I think that is good for the system, it's good for the wallet, and it is just good for your tolerance. I find this to be worth doing. And so if you're in the middle of your own right now, stay strong. You will get back to this sweet place where you can ingest cannabis again, and you're going to enjoy it so much more than when you left it. I can confirm that definitively right now. And for such an auspicious occasion, I wanted to pack up a little something here that I could share with you, listener. I did run out to the Wrigleyville Sunnyside this morning, and I got myself a couple of items here. One of them was an 1/8 of High Supply's Double Trouble. It's a sativa. I haven't yet tried it, but I packed it into this Woodwind from Dynavap, one of their handheld vaporizers here. And I'll give you my thoughts on this, like a proper review of the strain next week. I also got some Verano Essence pre-rolls. I got 2 packs of those, which I'll try, and I'll give you my reviews of those next week as well. But in the meantime, I just want to say cheers to a very wonderful 2024. Cheers to the magic of cannabis and being back in its lovely embrace. I have missed this so much, and I'm just really glad that I got through the tolerance break. And listen, the point of it is, if I can do that, if I can take 31 days away from cannabis, you can too. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not pleasant, but it's worth it. I can tell you that sitting on this other side, it is worth it. And now I'm back to doing and experiencing what I love. So cheers to you and a very, very happy 2024. Takes a while to heat up, but very nice. Oh, very nice. Gotta love that. Yes, there it is. There it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that round of applause that I hit on this board myself, but totally worth it. I really do feel like, look, this is how it goes as an adult. You don't really get a round of applause for, meeting mental challenges you set for yourself. You don't really get a round of applause for doing much of anything. I'm sure you notice this, you feel it like I do, listener. As an adult, nobody's really giving you a pat on the back or like an attaboy for doing something that you feel is necessary. So give it to yourself, damn it. That's what I say. And treat yourself. That's the other important part of this. Treat yourself to something you love. And man, do I love cannabis, and man, have I missed this. So happy to be back on the other side of this with you. Another thing that I have been able to try now are these Wink seltzers that I talked with Phil McFarland about a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't heard that episode, listener, check it out. But these Wink drinks are being sold all in states across the country, as well as liquor stores around Chicago. You can get them at Binny's. You can get them at other liquor stores. 2.5 milligrams of THC and CBD each. They come in little 8-ounce cans, and as I mentioned with Phil, there's a stronger dose in the Countdown beverages from the same company, Warehouse Beverage, spelled like W-H-E-R-E, Ware. But I got to try some of these Winks last night. I had one after dinner, and I've got one next to me right now, their tangerine flavor of seltzer and THC, so cheers on that too. Yeah. first thing that jumps out at me, it's the 8-ounce can, and I love the little 8-ounce cans for some reason. They're cute, you know? It's different than the 12-ounce can of beer or the tall boys, the 16-ounce, certainly. This is just a tinier can, 0 calories, 0 sugar. Now, as I mentioned, listener, last month I was doing the whole month with no added sugars, so I was looking at a lot of nutrition labels, and I've continued to do that. And so when I look at this nutrition label, 0 fat, 0 sodium, 0 carbs, and the list of ingredients, this is also encouraging. I can count them on one hand. Carbonated water, natural flavors, hemp extract, ascorbic acid, citric acid, and THC derived from hemp. That's all of them. Now, in terms of taste, with no sugar, no calories like that, it's not sweetened. It is truly like just a seltzer with a little bit of flavor. It's not overpowering. This tangerine one I'm drinking now, it is not overpowering. It kind of hits your lips, hits your tongue and your throat, and that's really where you kind of notice it, and it disappears pretty quickly after that. But the bubbles of the carbonation are satisfying on the throat like a lot of seltzers are. I can really see this like Phil McFarlane was talking about. This is the kind of thing that I feel like is a social alternative to beer or to alcohol. You know, the fact that you can get these at liquor stores now, and I'm willing to bet that some bars are going to start carrying these as well. These Wink seltzers are great. Oh, goodness. Just took another little hit off of that woodwind, again, from Dynavap here. You really got to roast that cap. If you haven't tried Dynavap's vaporizers, George Brewa, who I've spoken with before, you should definitely listen to that interview if you haven't, but he invented this little cap that goes on all of their devices, and that's basically what you heat up with your heating source in order to toast the cannabis to the appropriate temperature and then inhale. And the cap pops. It does a little kind of snap. You may have heard it there in the open, and that's when it lets you know that it's reached the right temperature. I myself find that I like to roast it for a little longer after that point because you can actually make the smoke a little bit heavier, and you can feel the vape bite a little more, kind of like if you're actually just smoking it and lighting the plant itself. That's something I've noticed, so I like to roast it a little more, but boy, I just sent myself into a little coughing fit and I decided to mute the mic. I definitely didn't need to share that with you, listener, but wow, I'm already feeling my head spinning a little bit, and boy, it's just great to be back, I'll tell you. I am not going to get over it for a little while, I can tell. And another way that I'm looking forward to celebrating and kind of getting back into this swing of things is I am going to a cannabis party, a smokeout, if you will. I love going to cannabis events. I love meeting people in this community. It's so exciting, and so many people are innovating in a lot of excellent ways. And there is a very special smokeout that's being put on by Tree Huggers Chicago, started by Brenda Lee. I've interviewed her in the past as well. You should check out that episode if you haven't listened to it. But she's gathered a really great group of people here, and they do events like this, whether it's going for a hike or going to a concert or a smokeout just like this. And you get a lot of like-minded people together. You can have drinks if you want to. You can consume cannabis how you'd like. And in this particular smokeout, there's going to be live music. There's going to be vendors there with their stalls set up where you can buy different cannabis products, check stuff out, meet some great people. Like I said, I'll be on hand for the whole thing. And this is at a speakeasy in Edgewater, actually, not that far from where I'm located. So it's a perfect location as far as I'm concerned. And these parties are so much fun. So if you are interested, if you're able to come tonight, being Saturday night, the 3rd, check out the website treehuggersshy.com, CHI, and you can get tickets there, find out the location and how to get into it and all that. And like I said, I will be there, as will a lot of other cool people, along with some great music, great food, good cannabis, good drinks. It should be a really good time, and I am really looking forward to it. Another thing I've been looking forward to, which I have not yet imbibed, that would be caffeine. I've talked on the show before, listener. You may have heard me say that I love cannabis and coffee. It's one of my favorite combinations. I like starting my days like that when I can. I have not yet consumed any caffeine. I've not had coffee. The tea that I have been drinking is caffeine-free still. The only reason I'm still holding off is that my wife and I are going to the Michigan Avenue Starbucks, the roastery there. That's like 4 levels. It's kind of a specialty thing. We're going there Sunday morning, and I just thought it'd be kind of a nice occasion to break my fast in terms of coffee. So that's where I'll be having my first cup of coffee, and I'm definitely going to bring some pre-rolls with me so I can have that combination that I love. We're also going to try this new donut place that opened in Chicago, Voodoo Donuts. It's out of Portland. I know they're very popular in the Northwest, but the first location in Chicago opened up last year, and so my wife and I are going to have our breakfast at Starbucks. We'll check out this Voodoo Donut place. It's going to be a great Sunday, but the reason I bring up coffee, not just to twist the knife a little in my own side, because I still haven't tried it, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting back into that too. But I bring it up because I'm wondering if you have tried Split Rock coffee. I've mentioned the last few weeks, listener, I have partnered with the Vouch Store. This is a store where they bring together small businesses and businesses worthy of support, and they connect them with content creators like myself who can kind of talk about brands and products that fit in with the message and what we're doing, and we can bring awareness to some of these businesses that we think are worth your support. And I believe Split Rock Coffee is absolutely one of those businesses. This is a veteran-owned business, this is a disabled-owned business, and their products are fantastic from what I've heard. Haven't tried them yet because I started this partnership during my dry month, and I've got some Split Rock on the way that I am going to try. But all the reviews I've read, everybody I've talked to who's tried this stuff loves it. I can't wait to give it a shot myself. And if you scroll down to the Vouch Store link in the description notes, you can get some for yourself. Order it. It'll ship right to your home, and I would love to hear what you think of it. I will be trying it out next week, and I'll give you my thoughts on it as well. I can give you some more detailed feedback. I also have Camp Craft cocktails on the show page. These are cocktail kits that effectively are shipped to your home as well. All the ingredients come and the recipes come for you to make some classic cocktails in these mason jars. And I'm really looking forward to trying some of these as well. But I thought these businesses were worth your support, and I definitely encourage you to scroll down and check them out for yourself. Listener, my guest today is a very special guest. He's got a great story to tell, and the store that he's working with is doing some really important work related to cannabis and veterans. You know, I've talked on the show before about veterans and how cannabis can benefit them, and this particular store is offering discounts to veterans year-round, which I think is fantastic. And they've got stores in a few different states. They're in Arizona, Michigan, and Missouri right now, and they're coming soon to Illinois and Massachusetts as well. And here to talk about all things the Mint and what their goals are and what products you can find there and that sort of thing is COO Raul Molina. Welcome, Raul.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate this. And always love to talk about veterans and appreciate the service.
Yeah, of course. And that's why I just wanted to have you on to talk about this. Once I found out about the Mint, as we mentioned, you're already in 3 states operational, and you're coming soon to Illinois. So I haven't had a chance to go into the stores yet. But once I found out about the products you guys offer and offering deals to veterans, I just thought that was so special. So why don't we start with just you and kind of talk about how you got into cannabis?
About 7 years ago, we kind of started delving into the cannabis industry. We applied in Arizona first. This is where we live. It's our hometown and home base. There was an announcement that the licenses were going to be handed out. We went in, we put in 20 applications. There was going to be 31 dispensaries that were going to be handed out, and they had about 1,700 different people applying. I'm going to be honest with you. We were very lucky. We were able to get 2 out of the 31 with our 20 applications.
Wow.
From there, we started an incredible journey. We started with our store in Tempe. From there, we've grown. At the moment, we have 6 stores in Arizona. We have 5 stores in Michigan and 1 in Missouri. And it's been an incredible journey. The amount of respect and the amount of people that I've met over the last 7 years in this industry has been incredible. The amount of respect I've been able to have for the plant, from my mentality 7 years ago to what I think about it now, has been 180 degrees. So it's been pretty cool to be part of the industry, and then on top of that, to be able to do things for people that could really use it, and I have found something that works for them has been even better. And it's always a great feeling to be able to do things for people.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and bravo, because I think that it is important work, and as you said, these are people who need it, deserve it very much more, and are dealing with symptoms on a regular basis that a lot of us really wouldn't have to go through, can't even relate to sometimes. And I think I've talked about on the show before about how with Western medicine, especially here in the U.S., the healthcare system, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of the time I think that doctors look at, whatever the disorder is, the disease, and they try and treat it one by one, or they don't look at it holistically. And then when they do prescribe things, as we know, there are side effects with pharmaceuticals, and then they prescribe something else. And before you know it, people, veterans especially, are probably on 10, 20 pills throughout the week or the month. And if cannabis can offer them relief from their symptoms just on its own without some of those really negative side effects, I'm all for that. One question for you, you mentioned your perspective on the plant's kind of done a 180 over this time that you've been working with the mint. I'm just curious, had you not experienced cannabis before, or was it kind of a first, was this just an introduction for you, starting with the dispensaries in Arizona?
It was my introduction to the cannabis world. Before that, I didn't really have a whole lot of dealings with it. And as I entered it, doing past projects and working on other things, I had always had the mentality where if somebody was a cannabis smoker, it was probably somebody that couldn't accomplish a lot or be very successful. And in the past 7 years, I've met so many very capable people and very successful people that consume cannabis, and along with seeing a lot of people who have different types of ailments and things that are pressuring them in their life. And it's gave them a whole new view of life and been able to allow them to experience things differently than whatever they were suffering or going through. So, it's definitely been eye-opening. Now my sentiments are 100% opposite of what I used to think. And it's just been nice to be introduced to a lot of really cool people that have, overcame different challenges in life and used cannabis with it. And being involved in the industry, you get to hear a lot of these stories, and it's part of the feel-good part of the industry where, you're doing some good. There's always the people who consume because they enjoy it and that's what they want to do. But then there's the people who really need it and it's really helping them. And that's always incredible and awesome to see.
I think you're certainly not alone in that. I talk on the show a lot about the sort of the lingering stigma, which is there. It was a concerted effort last century to paint cannabis as a negative all throughout. And the reputation still exists today. So I just mean to say you're certainly not alone in having felt that way. And I think it's so awesome that you got into the field and you've been able to not just, see firsthand how it improves the quality of life for people, gives people in a lot of cases a new lease on life when they're using medically. And then, of course, as you say, there are people, those of us choosing to just use it recreationally too. But that change, it's going to be hopefully happening for a lot more people because there are still so many people out there who don't know what cannabis can offer in terms of quality of life improvements. And that's something as these state by states are legalizing, and hopefully, again, as we're all waiting for the DEA to maybe make an announcement on rescheduling, get some federal support in here, that's only going to grow and increase. But as it is, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of happiness in this cannabis field. And I just think it's so fantastic as I do the work that you're doing at the Mint. So you started in Arizona, you moved into Michigan and Missouri now, and as I said, you're coming into Illinois and Massachusetts. Let's just, if you can, I know it's got to be one of the things I talk with business owners and entrepreneurs about is operating in different states and kind of the difficulties that presents, because each state right now is like its own island in terms of cannabis laws and policies. So Arizona has its own way of doing it. Michigan has its own way. What has it been like to kind of open stores in these different states, and what's been good or maybe difficult about doing that?
It is difficult because you're right. Every state has very different laws, and what you're allowed to do in one state is very different from what you're allowed to do in another state. We were able to get a nice footprint and a nice plan in Arizona, and we've been able to execute it in other states by going in, using a lot of the same things that we're using, creating efficiencies between the stores in Arizona and corporate in Arizona and our stores in the other states. We have an incredible vice president of retail operations that has gone out, and he's created the atmosphere, he's created the culture, he's created a program where somebody can be interchanged from one state to another, even though the laws are different, by making a base model of training that can be used everywhere and then tweaking the rest to the state where we're operating in. Michigan has metric, Arizona doesn't, and those are little things that, affect one state or affect the ability to work within one state or another, or having to come up with a whole different program for one state or another. But we try to normalize as much of it as we can, create, the efficiencies throughout all the states. And then after that, we ourselves in management need to understand well the laws of the state. So we kind of jump into that and really engulf ourselves in all the knowledge. And then we can, at that point, it's a little bit easier to operate and be able to hire the right people in those states. To be honest with you, what's probably gotten us, what's made it feel like it's not that hard has been the quality of people we've been able to hire. There's a lot of quality people in the cannabis industry, and it's a different passion. It's not just like any other industry where you're running a factory and you're making cups. There's not a whole lot of passion that can go into that.
Right.
But being in the cannabis industry and being new and feeling like you're part of the growth within the industry in order to see where it's going next, always, just kind of empowers people to want to be more passionate about it and understand it better. And so with us, it's been slow learning. We didn't jump into all these states at the same time. We kind of made our footprint in Arizona, learned as much as we could, and then as we went into other states, we learned that state. It wasn't a matter where we jumped into all of them at the same time. But at the same time, if you take things slow and you prep properly, it becomes a little easier. But yes, you're right. It is challenging because it is very different in every state.
It's cool the way you spelled that out there, how the people are really what make it so exciting, but also, sort of make it less difficult state by state if you're finding quality people. And as you say, there's no shortage of that in the cannabis space, the excitement, the passion, because, like you talked about, whether if you're on an assembly line making parts for some machine, maybe like looking at the strike last year for auto workers, right? Some of those people are really passionate about cars, but, at the same time, it's just not the same. Cars have never been held down by the U.S. government. You know what I mean? There's never been like a rebellion sense for the auto industry, whereas cannabis is still federally, Schedule 1 and controlled substance, and it still hasn't been officially admitted by the U.S. government about what medical value that it has. They haven't admitted their mistake with the war on drugs. So there's still this rebellion aspect, I think, of the cannabis industry, this underdog mentality, and I think that adds to the passion, along with the fact that people know, again, what quality of life improvements that it can offer people, and especially, as we've been talking about, veterans who absolutely need and deserve that. And so on that topic, let's talk about the discount that the Mint offers for veterans. Can you talk a little about that?
So I'm sure in the United States, 22 veterans take their lives because of what they're going through on a daily basis. So we at Mint decided that we were going to offer a 22% discount to veterans at all our stores across the country. And we didn't want to do it on Veterans Day. We didn't want to do it on certain days that where everybody turns around and tries to remember that. These guys are going through this on a daily basis, and we wanted to make it something that was accessible to them at all times. They are one of the groups that comes in through our front door that needs this the most and deserves it, for everything that service they provided for our country and the sacrifices they've made to be able to provide that service to us and allow us all, the rest of us, to, enjoy the life that we live. I didn't have the honor of serving my country. I was busy doing other stuff, and I really appreciate everybody who took the time and went out and did this. We have quite a few veterans on our team, and I see some of the effects that going out there and doing this puts on people and the pressure. And we just thought that it was something that needed to happen every day. We didn't want it to be something on a special occasion. We wanted it to be something that they could come in and when they need their medicine, they could get it at a lower price. We even have certain times during the day from 1 in the afternoon to 4:20 where anybody who walks in can get a free pre-roll. We call it happy hour, and you just come in and you get a free pre-roll. Not everybody has money to come in and buy a pre-roll.
Oh, man.
And sometimes that in itself is just something that allows somebody to come in that either can't afford to buy cannabis or can't afford to buy it on a regular basis and take advantage of it. And then there are those who do. And then there's quite a few people that we see on a daily basis coming in and visiting us during those hours.
Sure.
And we don't mind,
Yeah.
We're thrilled to be part of the industry. We're thrilled to be able to help. We consider this as much medicine as anybody else does. And we know that not everybody can afford it. And we want them to have quality stuff that's been tested, that's gone through, the system, and it's better than something that they might be able to find in the street, because I'll tell you that all they can buy, all they can afford. So no, we take huge pride in being able to do what we can and give back to the community that allows us to service them, because there's a lot of pushback in the community about having a dispensary in your area, and we want to change that mindset. We want people to understand that most of the people in the industry are incredible people that are passionate and want to help and understand other people's fights and other people's road in life and things that they've had to go through. And we just want to do our part, and we know that it's not enough, and we try to do as much as we can. But I think at the end of the day, not just us, but we could all be better humans. And we're just trying to do our small part to be able to, provide something for the people who could use them more.
Right on, Raul. Very well said. And I really appreciate that, because you made a lot of great points there, and you're so right. I do, as I was just talking about, the stigma, there is this sense from a lot of communities where it's like they sort of equate dispensaries to like a casino, or maybe like a bar or something. And it's just not that. And I really want to applaud. I love not just the 22% discount for veterans all the time, which I think is fantastic, but I also love the idea of a happy hour. That's something that I haven't seen a lot of dispensaries do, and it is such an integral part of what bars do, but not just that, like the community that's going into a third place between work and home all the time. The ability to go in and, as you said, get a free pre-roll, which is excellent. I think anybody be interested in that. But from 1 to 4:20 every day, you guys having some kind of a happy hour that allows anybody to get in on the cannabis space, and if they can't afford it on their own, that they can come in and get some of this, whether they need it medically, like we said, or if they're just trying to deal with some stress and anxieties recreationally, like any of us would. I just think that those particular stances you're taking there are just fantastic. So well done. And as Raul just mentioned, 22% discount all the time. I think I've heard from veterans too that the notion that you're doing this all the time, not just on Veterans Day and not just on like Memorial Day, the 2 days out of the year that we sort of have, set aside for that. I think doing it all day, every day like that, it does get at the fact that they are dealing with these symptoms all day, every day, and they need this support all day, every day. So it's excellent that the Mint is offering this, and I know people in Illinois here are going to be really excited for this, and I can only imagine that the people of Arizona, Michigan, and Missouri are thrilled with what you guys are doing so far.
Thank you, Don. We appreciate that. And like I said, it's maybe not quite enough, but it's a good start. And we challenge any other dispensaries and anybody who has the authority and power to do more to do more.
I agree totally. I think more people should be taking their cue from the Mint here and establishing some supportive elements into their dispensaries, rather than just kind of cranking up taxes on THC and looking at max profit. I'm not, not every dispensary is doing that, but there are are certainly some here in Illinois especially that seems like that's their real bottom line, and I think more people should be taking a cue from what you guys are doing. Now, on that note, let's talk a little about some of the products that you guys offer in the dispensaries. You already mentioned pre-rolls, which is great for people. I've talked about, I love them for how convenient they are and stuff like that, but what are some of the other offerings that people can expect when they go into a Mint dispensary?
I'm in Arizona right now, and I'm sitting at our flagship at the Tempe store, and I can tell you that we have 8,500 different SKUs with an endless amount of ways to consume if that's what you're looking for.
Wow.
Anywhere from vegan gummies to regular gummies to sugar-free gummies. For the people who are looking at the edibles, it seems like gummies is the lowest barrier of entry for people that want to try edibles, and a lot of times even cannabis. As far as flour, we have everything from what we call value flour, which is for, large amounts for lower pricing, to all the way to your connoisseur style flour where you're paying, $50, $60 for an eighth. So there's a little bit for everybody, and we have a lot of incredible mids that could easily be up in the higher levels. And then we have 6 refrigerators here in Phoenix, and we probably have about 2 brands per fridge. So we probably have about 6 or 7, maybe even closer to 10 different concentrate brands. And we have anywhere from your shatters and your batters and your sugars all the way to your THCA diamonds and your live resin batters and your rosin batters. And then you got the crazy stuff that, that there's still a call for. We actually have suppositories, we have topicals, we have cannabis and THC in the forms of pills that you can take on a daily basis if you don't want to smoke or don't want to use a vape pen or, are trying not to do anything that's sweet. And a lot of the edibles that we have tend to be on the sweet side. So that it's basically a little bit for everybody. It's from the stuff that I was very surprised when I saw it come into the market to, the good old flour that everybody loves and likes to sit there and break apart and roll your own joint and enjoy it on a, Thursday afternoon. So it's basically something for everybody.
Sure.
Now, we have the privilege here in Arizona to have the only cannabis kitchen in the country. We actually have a kitchen at our Tempe location where you can walk in and you can buy a pizza, you can buy hot wings, you can buy chicken strips, you can buy a chicken sandwich. When the chicken sandwich wars were going on between Popeyes and Chick-fil-A, we put out billboards around town that says our sandwich has weed in it. And so it was a pretty cool campaign. I think everybody got a kick out of that one, and it was the talk of the town that there was a third sandwich in the run.
I bet.
And obviously we were never in the run,
but still,
but it was cool, and people were talking about it.
Right, which is what matters.
Yeah, and so the kitchen's incredible, and then you can order specialty items out of there during the holiday season for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. We had all your side dishes, your cranberries, your potato salad, your mashed potatoes, your pies, your garlic butter, all infused that you could go and take home and either cook with or have as side dishes while you were having your turkey. We can make you a cake for your birthday. It's funny because when we started the advertising for the custom cakes, we advertised it as birthday cakes, wedding cakes, or divorce cakes. Guess which one we saw the most of?
Divorce.
Yeah. We thought we were being funny.
Yeah, me too. Right, exactly. But that's hilarious.
That's what it is. Somebody ends up breaking up or having a divorce or something, and apparently they're coming down and they're buying their ex a cake, and here you go, honey, have a nice trip.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Man, that's unbelievable. I mean, 8,500 and then different SKUs, but man, I mean, you had me at like just the vegan gummies and just because as you say, gummies do seem to be the lowest barrier to entry for people. I think there's plenty of people who are who maybe haven't tried cannabis before when it goes legal in their state, that they're looking to give it a shot, but maybe they don't want to smoke. The vapes are too intimidating, and forget about the concentrates and stuff. So gummies or drinks do seem to be the lowest barrier to entry. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of them are sweet. You know what I mean? They'll have sugars. They've got, it's more of like a dessert thing. And I think people who are health conscious, I mean, right now I'm doing this dry month, no added sugars and stuff. So I was really intrigued with the vegan gummies, but the only cannabis kitchen in the country, when you went on to talk about pizza and the Thanksgiving dinner that you guys did and wings and sandwiches, I mean, God, I'm looking at plane tickets to Arizona right now, and I want to come there. And man, I don't know if you guys are planning this for Illinois too. I'm sure that again, regulations will be different here, but even just some of those products you were talking about, man, I just cannot wait to get to try some of these at the Mint. Man, that sounds amazing.
If you ever work your way down to Arizona, give me a call. I'll give you a personal tour, and I'll feed you out of the kitchen.
I will take you up on that, my man. I really appreciate that. Well, let me wrap this up by just kind of, again, just saying what a wonderful job I think you guys are doing there. It's really important, to not just offer the variety of products, like you said, because you want to meet people where they are. And everybody has a different, not just taste, but maybe different specifications or different like symptoms that they're dealing with and health concerns, like something like a suppository, like you mentioned. I didn't even know those existed, but I can see why that would be helpful for different reasons medically for people. The fact that you guys are meeting people where they are in so many different ways, and you're expanding state by state. So listener, if you're in Arizona, Michigan, or Missouri, definitely go check out your Mint dispensary. And everyone in Illinois, Massachusetts, and Nevada, get excited because the Mint is coming here too. And let me just ask you one more thing, Raul. What are future plans for the Mint? You guys already are, you have a lot going in that Tempe store with so many products in the kitchen. What's next? What's on the docket that you guys are looking forward to at the Mint that people can get even more excited about?
I think the biggest challenge that we have in front of us is continuing the culture we've been able to develop and the medical first approach that we try to provide, and trying to make sure that we have something for everybody, like you said, whether it's what they're able to consume or eat, or even a budget. So I think that being able to maintain the atmosphere and everything is going to be probably one of the challenging things, but with the right people, I think that will be accomplished. And then one of our things that we're kind of looking forward to this year is we're expanding in Arizona, but we're also expanding into Nevada. And by the end of the year, we will have a dispensary on the Strip. And
wow.
I'll be honest with you, I get excited about little things and I get excited about big things. This is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be real cool to represent Mint on the Strip. And, our approach there is going to be a little bit different than everybody else. Everybody else out there, the mentality is that we're on the Strip, we're in Nevada. It's mostly tourists. We're going to be able to take advantage of them. They're going to pay whatever price we put on the product. We're going to try to offer a fair price on the product. And we're hoping that's going to make it somewhere as a destination point, that when you arrive in Nevada, you know that you can buy a joint at a regular price at Mint instead of getting charged $28 for one joint because you're coming in from a state that either doesn't have it or a country that doesn't have it, and they know that you'll pay the price.
Right.
So that's part of it. And then the other thing that's been very fulfilling in the past couple of months that we've done, and like I said, some of the little things. At our Tempe location, I have a 135-foot flagpole, and we hung a 50 by 30-foot flag, and it's so beautiful.
Oh, man.
I mean,
I can only imagine.
It's the little things. You're sitting there. It was kind of windy the other day, and it was standing straight up, and I was getting off the interstate, and I could see it all the way from the interstate. And, sometimes it's the little things in life that make all the hard work and everything that we're up to, and the whole team and everybody who does everything. It's the little things at the end of the day that make you smile, So
right on.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool industry to be a part of. It's incredible we take us the responsibility to make sure that we put our best foot forward to eliminate some of this taboo, some of this stigma, and and reach out to more people so that they can try it and experience some of the benefits, and if not anything else, the relaxation that it brings you, as a consumer in the industry.
Right on. Well said again, and I think that you guys are succeeding in what you're doing, what you're setting out to do, and I really look forward to seeing the kind of impact that the Mint is going to make on society here in the years ahead. And as I've been mentioning, listener, if you're a veteran, head on into the Mint, and you can get that 22% discount all day, every day. And everybody else, check out that happy hour, 1 to 4:20 every day. Sounds like a great time to head over to the Mint wherever you are. And man, that Nevada one, I think that those ideas you just put out there, I think people in Nevada are going to really appreciate that, because you're totally right. I think they focus so much on the Strip in Vegas for all the tourists, and they just, everything is charged so much. But there's a lot of locals that live in Nevada, and their I know they're going to appreciate the price point you're talking about at the Mint dispensary. So that's also very exciting. And like I said, keep up the great work. I can't wait to see what kind of impact you guys are making here.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate you. Anytime you're in town, swing by.
Will do. All right. Thanks. Raul Molina, COO of the Mint. Much appreciate you stopping by today.
Thanks.
And there you have it, listener. One more time, I'm thanking my guest, Raul Molina. What a guy. What fantastic ideas and work they're doing at the Mint. I mean, to offer a 22% discount every day to veterans. Why? Because 22 veterans commit suicide on average every day across the U.S. That is such meaningful motivation for a business to do what they're doing, because that is a group that obviously needs our support and deserves it. They served this country. They signed up and put their lives on the line. And now a lot of them have to deal with physical ailments, mental ailments that a lot of us will never even have to consider because of the sacrifices they have made. So that's why I thought this was worth bringing to your attention. I cannot wait until the Mint opens here in Illinois, and you'd better believe I'm definitely going to check out their locations in Arizona and Nevada when that one opens on the Vegas Strip later this year as well. But if you are somewhere where there's a Mint in operation that you can get to, highly recommend you go check that out. I mean, what other dispensary do you know of right now that's giving out free pre-rolls as a happy hour incentive between the hours of 1 p.m. and 4:20? I think that is another fantastic innovation, and it's an example that I hope other businesses start to follow, because this cannabis community, we need happy hours too. On another note, listener, there's a news story that I thought was worth bringing to your attention. This one's from Marijuana Moment, a publication I've brought up on the show before. I will share this article on the show social pages. I encourage you to read it, but I'll go through the gist. Scientists develop new method to test for recent marijuana use with 96% accuracy. Now, the study was funded in part by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA. It was published in the journal Clinical Toxicology. And this study brings up, the authors wrote what I have talked about on the show before in the past, which is that police often currently are relying on basic THC blood tests for evidence of possible intoxication in criminal investigations, like after car accidents happen. University of Colorado researchers pointed out these testing standards that can be unreliable, especially for frequent cannabis users. And this is what I've said in the past too, but this is their quote. Since THC accumulates and lingers in fat tissue, daily cannabis users may maintain constant elevations of THC in the blood even long after the psychoactive effects abate. That is exactly what I have said on this show before. A lot of drugs that we use, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, cocaine, whatever your jam is, most of those drugs are water soluble, meaning they latch to the water in our cells and they pass through the system 24 to 48 hours later. That's it, and then it's gone. THC is different. That bonds to our fat cells. That bonds to our lipids. They are lipid soluble. There's not many more drugs that are like that. And as such, when people talk about, hey, I've got to take a drug test for a job, how long until I have clean urine? Well, that's a really difficult answer, and it depends on a few different things. What's your body fat level? What's your activity level? How often are you smoking? And the answer is different depending on the person, which is why you can see that testing somebody, just doing a basic THC blood test on everyone, that is not a good method for police to test if you are currently intoxicated by THC. That's really the kind of thing that we're talking about. There's a nuance here between it being in your system and it actively affecting your state of mind. Alcohol, we've normalized it. We have a blood alcohol concentration test. There's a whole system of numbers that the entire country uses. If you're above 0.08, that's illegal. And then that's, you got to face the consequences for that. But again, that's because they know that if that amount of alcohol is in your blood, it translates directly to some symptoms of inebriation. It affects your mind a certain way when that amount is in your blood. You're under that influence right now. With cannabis, just because you could blow a THC test out of the water if you're a regular user, maybe your levels are high. But in terms of if you're actively influenced, psychoactively, if your mind is altered currently by those levels in your blood, that is something for which we do not have a good test at the moment. And so the article goes on and says a more accurate method of testing for recent marijuana use, the researchers found, is by analyzing the molar metabolite ratio of THC to THC-COOH in the blood. If a person's ratio of the active and inactive metabolites meets or exceeds a 0.18 cutoff point, quote, you can feel pretty confident, parenthesis, with 98% specificity, end parenthetical, that the person just used within the past 30 minutes. This is incredibly exciting. This kind of numerical cutoff point, this discovery of a new ratio to measure in order to give a snapshot into, hey, is someone under this influence right now? This could be huge in normalizing cannabis. This could be the kind of thing that gets the DEA to get up off its ass and actually reschedule this thing to Schedule 3 like it should. The ability to regulate this, not just in its sale and its transport across the country and all that, but in terms of the rules we have for its usage. A test like this to find out not just if it's in your system, but if it's actively affecting you right now. This is the kind of thing we've been waiting for in order to move the threshold of normalization forward. So anyway, there's more information in this article. I will share it as I normally do in the show description notes. You can scroll down and click on that link and it'll take you to this article. But I thought that was worth bringing to your attention, certainly. Here's one that I thought was interesting as well. The NFL is partnering on a new study using CBD to treat pain and protect from concussions. Now, this is a big one, especially given the Super Bowl is next weekend. A lot of people are going to be paying attention to the NFL. And I talked about this with Dr. Ari Grice, who's the pain management physician with the Philadelphia Eagles. If you haven't listened to my interview with Dr. Grice, I highly encourage you to check that out after this. We talked about exactly this in terms of how many players use cannabis in terms of pain management. How viable cannabis is as an alternative to opiates for chronic pain in everybody, but certainly as well for NFL players. And it was hard to say during our interview if the NFL was ever going to change its stance on these things. I mean, look, given that the NFL, they always seem to take their cue from Congress. They don't want to ruffle any feathers and potentially, ruin any business opportunities. I get that. But the fact is, I mean, something like 93 out of the top 100 broadcasts last year were NFL games. Like, it's a behemoth, and the fact is what the NFL decides to do could go a long way toward influencing some policy in this country. So the fact that they are partnering with Canadian researchers on a clinical trial to test the safety and efficacy of CBD for pain management, as well as neuroprotection from concussions, this is major. They say the phase 1 trial will involve 35 people who will get either a placebo or CBD-rich cannabis extracts to test whether it's, quote, safe, well-tolerated, and without adverse physiological and psychological dysfunction for daily use. I think that bit of it, the daily use part of it, is also key, because anybody who's trying to manage chronic pain knows this is a daily thing. You're going to be taking it every day. So we need to be testing if there are any issues with doing this every day. Now, you and I, likely, I'm sure you may be a daily user like I typically am, you and I know that there are no adverse side effects from this, especially just CBD. But an NFL-funded study and the results of it, which I'm, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure the results are going to come to find what we already know and just say that CBD is a great alternative for pain management. But to have the NFL put out that press release whenever these results come in, and then maybe take those findings and move forward, allowing their players to use CBD or other cannabis products the way the NBA is, that could be a major signal, not just to a bunch of people around the country, but to the government as well, that this is something worth doing. So anyway, I'll go ahead and share that article as well. I thought that was big news. And I don't know if you have any opinions one way or the other on the Super Bowl, listener. I was rooting for Ravens-Lions in this Super Bowl, and I think we just had the 49ers and Chiefs a couple of years ago. So it just feels like a repeat, and these are two super teams, and I'm watching for the commercials this year, honestly, and playing a drinking game as to how many Taylor Swift sightings we get during the game. And finally, this one I thought was interesting as well. This is from thetiger.com, THAIGR. I will share this article as well, but I thought this was interesting. Now, I've talked about Thailand on the show recently. Thailand made the decision, which shocked a lot of people, after medically legalizing cannabis, they decided to fully legalize it recreationally for about a year. And then just a month or so ago, they decided to go the other way and once again prohibit it for adult recreational use. But it is still medically legal there. And this Tiger article is headlined, Thailand's Cannabis Boom, Mega Economic Impact Unveiled. This was published yesterday, February 1st, from when I'm recording this. And I'll read a little bit of it, and as I said, I'll share the article so you can go through the rest of it yourself. I read through it already. I found there to be a lot of good and fascinating information here. But the intro is that Thailand's journey into the cannabis market is a tale that's capturing the attention of many across the globe. While the country's recent move to legalize medical cannabis in 2018, it's not just the local landscape that's changing. There's a ripple effect being felt far and wide. This bold step is positioning Thailand as a key player in the global cannabis scene, sparking curiosity about the economic implications that follow. Now, what they're getting at here is that medical cannabis is becoming increasingly accepted worldwide, but in Asia, not so much. That is still one area where cannabis is definitely being kept at arm's length. So Thailand really is a trailblazer here in their part of the world. The article goes on to say the legalization has opened doors to job creation, tax revenue generation, and foreign investment. They go on to spell out in more detail how the increased tax revenue goes for that government, the creation of those new jobs, boosting in the tourism industry, reduction in healthcare costs, and foreign investment in Thailand's cannabis industry. Now, this is something that I think countries around the world certainly are watching, and as they should be. I mean, I think here in the U.S., we're going state by state, and if and when the federal government finally gets out of its own way and removes this unjust prohibition against cannabis, that will be a big signal around the world as well. But I think there are a lot of eyes on Thailand right now to see how this is going to go. And even if it's just medical, as I said, they made the decision to sort of flip-flop on the adult rec use there. Now that's illegal again. That is prohibited there. But medical use is still allowed. And that alone is still a signal to the world, especially in that part of the world. And I think all of those bullet points that this article mentions and that I just shared with you, all of those are positive reasons. I mean, you know that it's going to be a plus in all of those columns to have medical cannabis legal in your country. I mean, my goodness, the reduction in healthcare costs alone, I think, should make anybody, as well as the tax revenue, I think that's going to make any government perk up and sort of pay more attention to it. Anyway, that is all I have time to give you this week, listener. I want to thank you so much again for listening to the show. Be sure to scroll down and leave a rating or review on whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. However you get your podcasts, make sure to rate and review the Cannabis Man podcast and become a subscriber. Get a nice email from me, hear your name shouted out in the next episode. If you feel that I'm bringing some value here, if you like the show, any support you can provide is certainly appreciated. And follow the show on social media, the Cannabis Man Podcast Facebook page, and at C-Man Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. I will be back again next week with another interview and trying out some glorious cannabis products between now and then, which I'll share my thoughts with you on. And of course, I'll bring you news and stories about events coming up and anything I think that you should be paying attention to related to cannabis, all on the Cannabis Man Podcast. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is 100% originally crafted by myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music written and composed by Yusu Kim, aka Good Son.